but they never could suspect that a president of the United States would jump over those guardrails.
I want to widen out the aperture in a minute and talk about the whole of this presidency, but let me just stay on this for a minute. If what we're describing is accurate, and if it's not impeachable, if you're not willing to say that it's an impeachable offense, what is impeachable to you?
Well, let me just say that I'll be making an announcement at 5 o'clock today, not here right now, and that...
By the way, you're more than welcome to make it right now.
It's really sad to think that our president would perform an impeachable offense. It's hard. You know, it's hard to say we've gotten to that place. But what would be an impeachable offense would be that which is proven in an investigation.
Right,
and we have to have an investigation.
Calling for convening a select committee on an impeachment is the beginning of a process, the beginning of a discovery process, not the end. So you don't have to have enough proof to convict at the outset of the process. So my question, I guess, is...
But you said, is it an impeachable offense? And that is a verdict.
Given what we know and given what the president has said, I mean, the analogy here is crude, but we seem to be in a situation at the moment in which Richard Nixon, after the Watergate break-in, said something akin to, yeah, I broke into the Watergate. I needed to see what the DNC knew. I mean, Donald Trump says out loud what most people say to themselves. I mean, and so I'm not going to belabor this forever, but...
No, I think you are.
No.
No, but and let me just say, in terms of the Nixon analogy, the president is making lawlessness a virtue in our country. In that call, he sort of is trying to exploit it. So understand that. So we have several concerns about the president in terms of our differences in policy, and I'd love to tell you about all the legislation we have passed that we're hoping the Senate will take up. Starting with gun violence, tomorrow we have a big Wear Black tomorrow, gun violence, activities on Capitol Hill and beyond and around the country. So we have some differences in terms of policy. You might want to know the president called me this morning about gun violence. He said that we were getting close to a solution.
Open parenthetical, what is that call like on a day like today?
Somebody said to me last night, they said, give us a surreal moment about the president and your conversations with him. I said, it's more like it's always surreal. Give you a normal moment.
Was this a relatively normal call?
Yeah, well, it called to talk about gun violence, and then it segued into other things.
Can you give us an indication of what those other things are?
Not right now. But I was concerned, just in terms of being global, that the president said, I have to get off the phone now because I'm going to go speak at the United Nations. And it's great. I mean, it's great here. It's great. So I didn't have a chance to listen to his speech. I was too busy so that I could have time to come here. But he said that he called upon the countries to reject globalism and embrace nationalism. Really? Really? So, again, we have some serious policy differences, and in terms of multilateralism and who we are as a country. I'll tell you a story about me. When I was a young girl, I was a student, and I went to President Kennedy's inauguration. It was freezing cold. It was so fabulous. It's much smaller on the east side of the Capitol, not the west side of the Capitol. I was a student at the time. And everybody in the world, and all of you are too young, but you read it in the history books, knows that President Kennedy said to the citizens of America, ask not what America can do for you, but what you can do for your country, right? Everybody knows that? The very next sentence in the speech is what struck me, because I'm a student of political science and international relations. The very next sentence, he said, to the citizens of the world, ask not what America can do for you, but what we can do working together for the freedom of mankind. Freedom. freedom. But the part that really stuck with me was the working together. No condescension, was working together. Not what we do for you, but what we do together. And that multilateralism has been a source of our strength. So when I see the president's call for rejecting globalism and embracing nationalism, when I see him questioning our involvement in Article 5 of NATO and the rest, and I see his actions vis-a-vis Afghanistan, we went in together, multilaterally, but he's coming out unilaterally, then you see why there's some cause for questioning among some of our allies.
There's
Did I change the subject sufficiently?
That was. Beforehand, she said she only wanted to discuss the cello, actually, so this is already a victory. But there is, according to what we're getting on the screen, there's a little bit of what you might call now a breaking tweet from the president, who says that tomorrow they will release a transcript of the Zelensky call. Yeah. So my question to you is, if you see that transcript and it is more benign than we've been led to believe, do you think that your caucus might stand down a little bit? No. Or do you think that the caucus is at a boil right now? I mean, you're going to find out in the next couple of hours.
No, it's not about that. This is about the Constitution of the United States. And we have many other, shall we say, candidates for impeachable offense in terms of the Constitution of the United States. But this one is the most understandable by the public. And it's really important to know this. There is no requirement there be a quid pro quo in the conversation. If the president brings up, he wants them to investigate something, that's of his political opponent. That is self-evident that it is not right. We don't ask foreign governments to help us in our elections. That's what we try to stop with Russia. It's wrong. So it's not only about how we make decisions about our foreign policy and our global security, it's about undermining the integrity of our election, A. B, I don't think there's a grasp on the part of this administration that the quid pro quo is not essential to an impeachable offense. But if you have sequencing, like a couple of days before, the president withdrew the bipartisan support for Ukraine, bipartisan enthusiastic support for Ukraine. A few days earlier, he withdraws it, then makes this statement. President's words weigh tons, and just bringing up the election is bad enough. That there would be a quid pro quo isn't necessarily in the conversation, but in the sequencing. So this is not a good thing for a democracy, for the leader of the free world to be talking like that. And I don't even know if there are any scruples involved. That's why I say they think lawlessness is a virtue, and now they want to export it to another country.
If I may, it sounds as if you believe that this is a very, very serious offense.
Now, let's just put it this way. I accepted this invitation a while back.
I'm just noting as an observer of this conversation.
I come every year, right?
More or less.
When I'm invited, I come. When I'm invited, because since I was in high school, I read The Atlantic Monthly, and they always taught us if you want to know how to write,